The morning does not arrive all at once. It seeps, first as a pale silver glow pressing gently against the shuttered windows, then as a thin blade of light slipping across stone, catching the edges of frost, still clinging to the cobbles. The medieval market square lies quiet, breathing slowly, as if reluctant to wake. Above it all, the bell tower looms, dark patient, its rope unmoving, its bronze heart still silent. A single crow cuts through the air, its wings whispering against the cold, and then the sound of life begins. Wood creaks, leather sighs, iron murmurs. A cartwheel groans as it turns for the first time that day, its axle stiff from night damp. Hooves strike stone with measured rhythm. Somewhere nearby, a door opens and the scent of yesterday's smoke drifts outward, oak and peat, ash and memory. This is how the market awakens, not with noise, but with recognition. Hands emerge first. Rough hands, scarred hands, hands shaped by years of repetition. A baker's fingers, dusted white, pressed gently into a loaf still warm from the oven, testing its readiness as one might test the pulse of a sleeping child. Steam rises faintly as bread is laid upon coarse linen, the crust singing softly as it cools. The smell spreads quickly, folding itself into the air, coaxing hunger from stone walls and empty stomachs alike. Across the square, a woman kneels beside a low table, arranging apples one by one. She turns each fruit so its unblemished side faces outward, polishing them against her sleeve. Her cloak is patched at the elbows. Her hair is hidden beneath a linen coif, already darkened by sweat despite the cold. She does not rush. The order of things matters. Disorder invites loss. This market has rules older than memory. Some are written, nailed into the beams of the guild hall, or read aloud by clerks with ink-stained fingers. Others live only in gesture and silence, where one may stand, when one may speak, how loudly one may call a price, who may sell meat and who may not, which scales are trusted, which hands are watched. The bell rings at last, one deep note, heavy and solemn, rolling outward across the square and into the narrow streets beyond. It presses itself into chests and bones, settling there like a command. The market is open. From the alleys, people flow in, not all at once, but steadily. A farmer with mud, still clinging to his boots. A fishmonger whose hands smell of river and salt. A widow carrying eggs wrapped in straw, her eyes lowered, her steps careful. Children weave between legs, barefoot despite the cold, chasing one another until a sharp word pulls them back into obedience. Coins begin to change hands. Not many at first. Copper mostly. A few thin silver pennies worn smooth by decades of touch. Each exchange is deliberate. Nothing is wasted here. Not money, not words. The market is not merely a place of trade. It is a place of judgment. Eyes linger. Whispers pass. Reputations are weighed as carefully as grain. A man who cheats his measures will find his customers fewer with each passing week. A woman whose bread is lighter than it should be will feel the distance grow around her stall like an invisible wall. Trust is currency here. Earned slowly, lost in an instant. Near the center of the square, beneath a canvas awning stained by rain and smoke, an old man sits with a set of scales. His beard is yellow with age, his back curved like a question never answered. He adjusts the weights with reverence, murmuring numbers under his breath in Latin, a habit left over from a life half spent in monasteries and wrecker halls. His presence alone steadies the market. Disputes soften in his shadow, voices lower. Yet today, something does not sit easily. It is subtle, a pause too long, a glance held too carefully. At the edge of the square, where the stone gives way to packed earth, a caravan has arrived. The carts are unfamiliar, taller than local wagons. They were darkened by travel and weather. Their horses are lean, their harnesses stitched with patterns no one here recognizes. The men who stand beside them speak softly in a tongue that bends strangely around the ears of the townsfolk. They unload their goods slowly, deliberately, as if aware that every movement is being watched. Silks unfurl, deep blues and reds that drink the light. Small jars are opened briefly, releasing the sharp, intoxicating scent of spices rarely tasted here. Pepper, clove, things that burn and linger. things reserved for feast days and lordly tables. The market stirs. Curiosity fights caution. Hunger battles law. These goods are not forbidden by the king's word, but they exist in a gray place, outside the agreements of the local guilds, beyond the comfort of custom. No one steps forward at first. The space between stalls feels suddenly wider, heavier. A tanner wipes his hands on his apron, leaving dark streaks behind. He watches the strangers with narrowed eyes, jaw tight. His wife, the apple seller, glances toward him, then back to her fruit. She knows this look. It is a look of a man who fears becoming unnecessary. Change is a smell, sharp and metallic, like blood on cold air. A clerk from the market court approaches, his wool robe brushing the ground. He carries a bundle of parchments sealed with wax, the edges curled and worn. He speaks to the travelers quietly, his tone measured. There is no shouting, no threat, yet everyone listens. The bell does not ring again. Time stretches. At a nearby stall, a child fingers a wooden whistle, lifting it to his lips before being stopped by a quick slap from his mother's hand. "Not today," she murmurs. Her voice trembles slightly. She does not know why. The baker's wife crosses herself unconsciously, the motion quick and practiced. She has heard stories of foreign traders bringing more than goods, bringing sickness, bringing trouble, bringing the attention of men who rule from far away and care little for small markets and the people who depend on them. Finally, the clerk nods. A compromise. Perhaps the travelers may sell, but only until the sun reaches its highest point. Only in that place. Only under watch. The market exhales. Business resumes, though not as it was. People drift closer now, drawn despite themselves. Fingers brush silk and linger. Coins are counted twice before being offered. Prices are negotiated in whispers. Each transaction feels weighted, as if history itself is leaning in to observe. Above it all, the bell tower stands unchanged. By midday, the square is full. The noise swells, voices overlapping, laughter breaking through, arguments flaring and fading. The smell of roasting meat mixes with sweat and smoke. A musician plays a bowed fiddle near the well, its song thin but persistent, threading itself through the chaos. Yet beneath the surface, something has shifted. The market is still the heart of the town, but the rhythm is altered just slightly, like a step taken out of time, like a door left ajar. As the sun begins a slow descent, shadows stretch long across the stones. Stalls empty. Goods are packed away. The travelers load their remaining wares, their faces unreadable. Some townsfolk watch them leave. Others turn away. The bell rings once more, softer now, as if tired. The market closes, but the memory remains. In the quiet that follows, scraps of straw and apple peels lie scattered like evidence. Footprints overlap, impossible to untangle. The square holds a day within it. The fear, the wonder, the bargains struck and those refused. Tomorrow, the market will open again. The bell will ring. Bread will steam. Coins will pass from hand to hand. But something unseen has entered the rhythm of everyday life. And once a market learns change, it never fully forgets. The wind arrives before the light. It slips through the narrow lanes of the town, carrying with it the damp breath of the forest beyond the walls. It rattles loose shutters, brushes against hanging signs, and curls beneath cloaks as if searching for warmth. The market square lies half hidden beneath a veil of mist, its stones dark and slick with night's residue. Somewhere unseen, water drips steadily into a gutter, marking time long before the bell dares to speak. Then the sky begins to pale. Not suddenly, but with patience. A soft gray spreads outward, thinning the darkness until shapes emerge. Roof lines, chimneys, the crooked outline of the well at the square's heart. The market is waking, though it does not yet know it. Footsteps sound first, measured, familiar. A cloth merchant enters the square, pulling a low cart behind him. Its wheels creak softly, with swollen from damp air. He pauses near his usual place, close enough to the well that customers may linger, far enough from the butcher to keep his fabrics from absorbing the scent of blood. He rubs his hands together, breath fog in the air, then begins to work. Bolts of cloth are lifted carefully, unrolled and shaken, until their folds fall smooth, will dyed in muted browns and greens. Linen pale as bone, one strip of blue, faded but still precious, catches a growing light. He runs his fingers across it, feeling for flaws, for weakness. Cloth remembers the hands that made it, the looms it passed through, the sheep and field it came from. A careless fold can betray years of labor. Nearby, a potter arrives with baskets balanced on a yoke across his shoulders. Each step is slow, deliberate. Inside the baskets, bowls knock softly against one another, their rims chipped and smoothed by use. He sets them down, arranging them in careful circles, listening for the telltale crack that would mean loss. Clay is forgiving when shaped, less so when finished. The bell has not yet rung, but the square is no longer empty. At the edge of the market, a young girl sweeps. Her broom is little more than a bundle of twigs bound together with twine, its handle worn smooth by many hands. She moves methodically, pushing last night's debris into small piles, ashes from hearths, bits of straw, a broken crust of bread gnawed thin by rats. The work is quiet, unnoticed. It always is. She is an apprentice, though the word is rarely spoken aloud. Her learning is woven into motion, into observation. She watches without seeming to. She listens while her hands move. Her master stands nearby, hunched over a table of herbs laid out on rough cloth. His hair is iron gray, his eyes sharp beneath heavy brows. He does not greet customers yet. There is time. He crushes a sprig of rosemary between his fingers, inhales deeply, then nods to himself as if confirming a memory. Again, he says without looking up. The girl sweeps again. She knows the smells by heart now. Thyme sharp as clean stone, sage bitter and grounding, dried chamomile sweet, almost like apples left too long in the sun. Each scent has its purpose, each leaf its story. Some heal, some harm. The line between them is thin and learned only through patience. The bell rings at last. One clear note, carrying across the square and into the waking town. Doors open wider. Voices follow. The market breathes in. People arrive in small clusters. A pair of sisters arguing softly over who carries a basket. A man with a limp leading a donkey heavy with sacks of grain. A priest passing through without stopping, his gaze fixed ahead as if the market were a temptation he dares not acknowledge. Coins clink. Greetings are exchanged. News is traded alongside goods. The apprentice straightens, resting briefly on her broom. Her master nods once. The day has begun. Customers come seeking remedies. A poultice for aching joints. A tea for restless sleep. A charm against fever, though the old man never calls it that. He speaks of balance, of humors, of listening to the body's quiet complaints before they become screams. The girl watches his hands as he measures, as he chooses which leaves to offer and which to withhold. He asks questions softly, listening more than he speaks. Trust is built here, word by word. Then the man in the worn cloak appears. He does not come early. He never does. He arrives when the square is full enough to hide him, yet not so crowded that he might be delayed. His cloak is frayed at the hem, its color once black, now something close as shadow. The hood is drawn low, but the apprentice sees his face briefly as he leans in. Thin, pale, eyes that do not linger. He asks for dried leaves, nothing unusual. His voice is quiet, accented in a way that suggests long travel or long hiding. The old man does not comment. He selects the herbs carefully, wraps them in cloth, and names a price. The man pays without bargaining. As he turns to leave, his hand brushes the apprentice's. Just briefly, just enough. She feels the chill of it linger even after he is gone. She watches him disappear into crowd, swallowed by bodies and noise. This is not the first time she has seen him. He comes every few weeks, always alone, always careful. Others barely notice him, but she does. She notices the way he never looks over his shoulder, as if already resigned to whatever follows. The market swells toward midday. The sun climbs, thinning the mist until the stones shine. The square grows warm, crowded. Children dart between stalls, laughter ringing out before being silenced by sharp words. A pig squeals somewhere near the butcher's block. A cask is opened, releasing the sour-sweet smell of ale. At the well, women gather, lowering buckets and raising them again, arms straining. They speak of births and deaths, of weather, of taxes rumored to rise. Their voices blend into a low chorus, familiar and unending. The apprentice sweeps again, slower now. Her thoughts linger on the man in the cloak, on the way his fingers trembled as he paid. She wonders what sickness drives him back again and again. Some ailments cannot be cured with leaves. The market is more than trade. It is confession, unspoken and incomplete. As the afternoon wears on, shadows shorten, then lengthen again. The cloth merchant sells his last bolt. The potter packs away what remains, counting losses without expression. The herbalist repairs his final mixtures, his movements growing slower, heavier. The apprentice feels the weight of the day settle into her bones. She has learned much without being taught directly. Who comes alone? Who comes desperate? Who comes only to be seen? When the bell rings again, signaling the market's close, she startles. The sound feels final, though it will return tomorrow. Stalls are dismantled. Goods disappear back into carts and baskets. The square empties, leaving behind only marks, scuffed stone, trampled straw, the faint echo of voices. As they prepare to leave, the apprentice looks once more toward the path where the cloaked man vanished. She does not know why she remembers him. Perhaps because the market teaches not only how to sell and measure, but how to notice those who pass through unseen. How lives brush briefly against one another, leaving behind no proof except a feeling that lingers longer than expected. The square grows quiet again. The wind returns, carrying away the day's warmth. Somewhere, the bell rope sways gently, though no hand touches it. Tomorrow, the market will open once more, and the apprentice will sweep. The bell speaks before the sun. Its sound travels outward through the sleeping town, low and solemn, rolling over rooftops and down narrow lanes like a tide of bronze. It stirs the pigeons from the eaves and settles into the stones of the market square, where mist clings to the ground in a thin, breathing veil. The world feels hushed, as though the day itself is still deciding whether to arrive. Moist earth scents the air, heavy and clean, rising from the soil of nearby gardens and the damp wooden beams of stalls left standing overnight. The ground is dark with dew. Footprints from yesterday have softened, their edges blurred by night. The market remembers all who passed through it, though it never speaks their names. Carts arrive one by one, wheels creaking softly, axles whispering complaints learned over long years. Canvas is unfurled. Ropes are untied with practiced hands. Wooden tables, scarred and stained, are set into place as if returned to positions they have always known. Nothing here is new. Everything is renewed. The butcher is among the first. He hangs sides of meat on iron hooks, their weight pulling the leather of his apron downward. The smell is sharp, unmistakable, mingling with smoke from nearby hearths. He wipes his blade on a cloth already darkened beyond its original color, then runs a thumb along the edge, careful, respectful. Flesh demands attention. Neglect invites waste. Not far from him, the baker's stall begins to breathe. Loaves are lifted from baskets, their crusts split and golden. Steam escaping like quiet prayer. The scent drifts outward, folding itself into the air until it becomes impossible to tell where hunger ends and memory begins. Children will come soon, drawn by nothing more than the smell, their coins clutched tight in warm fists. Behind the stall, the baker's wife watches. She has seen more mornings than she can count. Her hands are thickened by years of kneading, her wrists marked by faint white scars from ovens and hurried movements. She arranges the bread not by size but by instinct, spacing each loaf so it can be seen, so it can be chosen. His presence is not meant to intrude, only to observe. He pauses near the well, lifting the lantern to peer into its depths. The water below reflects the light faintly, then swallows it. He listens. Nothing stirs. Satisfied, he moves on. From an alleyway, a cat emerges, silent as breath. It pauses, ears twitching, then slips across the square toward a place where scraps are often forgotten. The market provides even in absence. At the edge of the square, a door creaks open. A woman steps out, wrapped in a heavy cloak. She is older now than she once was, her movements slower, careful. She carries a small bundle against her chest. Inside, wrapped in linen, are unsold goods, cheese perhaps, or dried fruit, things too precious to leave behind, too humble to mourn aloud. She crosses the square quietly, glancing around as if expecting the market to speak back to her. It does not, yet she feels it watching, the way one feels the presence of an old companion even in silence. This place has held her life. She remembers coming here as a child, fingers sticky with honey stolen from a stall, while her mother argued over price. She remembers standing here as a bride, veil thin against the sun, heart pounding louder than the bell. She remembers lost too, standing in the same square, clutching a basket she could barely afford to fill. The market has seen it all. It has never judged. She reaches the far side of the square and disappears into the darkness, her footsteps swallowed by the night. The watchman continues his rounds. He passes a butcher's block, scrubbed clean but still marked by faint grooves where blades have fallen again and again. He pauses there, resting his hand briefly on the wood. It is scarred but solid, like the people who work it. Further on, he stops near a stall where cloth once lay folded in careful rows. A loose thread flutters in the night breeze, catching the moonlight. He tucks it back absent-mindedly, a small gesture of order in a world that rarely offers it. The bells are silent now, yet the rope inside the tower sways slightly, stirred by air currents, as if remembering the hands that pull it each day. Its bronze heart waits patiently. Time, here, is not hurried. Beyond the square, in a narrow room above a shuttered shop, a candle burns low. A young man sits at a table, counting coins by its light. He stacks them carefully, forming small towers that threaten to topple with each breath. His hands tremble, not from cold, but from exhaustion. He has worked since before dawn, hauling goods, haggling, watching for thieves. The market has taken its toll. Still, he counts again. He must be certain. Winter does not forgive mistakes. When he is done, he wraps the coins in cloth and ties them tightly, then presses a bundle into a hidden place beneath the floorboards. Only then does he allow himself to rest, lowering his head into his hands. Outside, the square lies quiet, indifferent yet protective. Somewhere else, a family sleeps above their stall. The scent of herbs clings to the walls, to their clothing, to their dreams. She knows who will come, the widow who buys the smallest loaf and apologizes for it, the mason who pretends not to count his coins, the boy who always asks for credit and always pays it back. This market is her measure of time. Yet today, the air carries an unease she cannot name. There's been talk, quiet, careful talk, of taxes to come, of collectors riding out from the Lord's estate, parchments in hand, eyes cold and precise. More will be asked this season. They say, more grain, more coin. The question lingers unspoken in the square. From whom? The bell rings again, marking the market's opening. People arrive in earnest now. Baskets sway from arms. Voices rise and overlap. A man coughs, deep and wet, and those nearby shift subtly away. Illness has a presence of its own. It is watched, measured, feared. As the sun climbs, a stranger appears. He is not announced. He does not call out. He simply arrives, leading a small cart pulled by a mule with tired eyes. His clothing is clean but unfamiliar, stitched in a style not seen often here. He chooses a place at the edge of the square, where the ground slopes slightly downward and begins to unpack. Silk catches the light first. It spills from his hands like water, colors deep and impossible, reds like wine, blues like summer dusk. Small jars follow, sealed with wax, their contents fragrant even before they are opened. The scent carries pepper, cinnamon, something sharp and sweet that makes the nose prickle and the mind wander. The market hesitates. This is not the sort of thing meant for ordinary days. These are goods for feasts, for gifts, for moments meant to impress. Yet they sit here now, among turnips and bread and clay bowls. A few brave souls approach. Fingers hover, then touch. Eyes widen. Coins are weighed in palms, reconsidered. The baker's wife watches from her stall. She feels the pull, though she does not move. She remembers the last time such goods appeared, Years ago, when her children were smaller and her husband still lived. She remembers how quickly wonder can turn into longing, and how longing can turn into resentment. Nearby, the butcher grunts softly, unimpressed. His trade is immediate, necessary. People will always need meat. Silk cannot feed a family through winter, but others are less certain. A young woman lingers, her hand brushing a length of cloth before pulling back as if burned. A merchant argues quietly over price, his voice low but insistent. The stranger listens, patient, his face unreadable. The sun reaches its height. Heat settles over the square, drawing sweat from skin, thickening the air. The smells intensify. Bread, blood, spice, bodies press close. The bell tower casts a short, sharp shadow that cuts across the stones like a blade. Then word spreads. A village upriver has fallen ill. Fever, swollen throats, death that comes quickly. No one knows how it began. Some blame the water. Others whisper travelers, of curses carried unknowingly from place to place. The market reacts without speaking. Hands move faster. Deals conclude abruptly. Distance appears between bodies where there was none before. The stranger's stall is watched now with new eyes. His spices smell stronger, almost threatening. The baker's wife crosses herself again, slower this time. She looks at the children gathered near her stall and feels a tightening in her chest. Bread is comfort. Bread is survival. She presses an extra loaf into a familiar hand without charge, pretending not to notice the tears that follow. By afternoon, the mood has shifted entirely. The stranger sells little now. The curious have retreated. The fearful remain. He packs some of his goods away, his movements unhurried but careful. He has seen this before. When the closing bell rings, it sounds heavier than usual. Stalls come down. Goods vanish. The square empties, leaving behind only traces, spilled grain, crushed herbs, the faint scent of spice lingering stubbornly in the air. The baker's wife lingers last. She gathers crumbs from the table, brushing them into her apron. She looks once more toward the place where the stranger stood, now empty. The market will remember this day. It always does. Tomorrow it will open again. The bell will ring. Bread will bake. Meat will hang. But beneath the familiar rhythm, a question has taken root. How much can change before a place no longer recognizes itself? The stones offer no answer. They only wait. The market wakes beneath the cry of a crow. It perches high in the rafters of the church roof, its black shape stark against the pale morning sky. The sound it releases is sharp, insistent, echoing down into the square below, where stone still holds the cold of night. Autumn has begun its slow arrival. It announces itself not with color, but with bite, with a thin edge in the air that slips through wool and settles against the skin. Vendors arrive earlier now. Winter is a thought no one speaks aloud, yet everyone feels it approaching. The square smells of salt and smoke. Barrels of fish are opened, their brine sharp and honest. Leather hangs stiff from pegs, darkened by oil and age. Baskets of fruit release a faint sweetness beneath the heavier scents. Apples bruised with sound, pears spotted and ripe. Somewhere nearby, a fire crackles, and the scent of burning wood folds itself into everything else. At the edge of the square, a boy walks carefully. He is no older than 12, his steps measured, his arms wrapped around a wicker basket lined with straw. Inside, eggs rest, pale and fragile, each one gathered before dawn from the hens behind his family's cottage. He watches the ground as he walks, avoiding loose stones, holding his breath whenever the basket shifts. This is not his first market day. It will not be his last. Yet each time feels new, heavy with responsibility. His mother follows at a distance. She does not hover. She never has. Her hands are rough, her back bent slightly from years in the fields, but her eyes are sharp. She watches her son from beneath the shadow of her hood, ready to step in if needed, yet trusting him to stand on his own. This is how children learn here, not through instruction, but through doing. They reach their place near the well. The boy sets the basket down slowly, easing it onto the ground as if lowering something sacred. He kneels, adjusting the straw, counting the eggs again though he already knows the number by heart. Each one represents feed, labor, patience. Each one carries a risk of loss. The bell has not yet rung, but the market is already stirring. A man passes carrying bundles of reeds for thatching. A woman drags a crate of turnips, their skin still dusted with soil. Voices rise, soft and low, greetings exchanged without ceremony. These people know one another too well for formality. At the far side of the square, something unfamiliar takes shape. Traveling merchants arrive not as locals do, quietly and predictably, but with a sense of disruption. Their carts are larger, their wheels broader, their beasts lean and restless. The fabrics covering their goods are patterned in strange ways, stitched with symbols that do not belong to this place. They speak among themselves in a language that bends the ear, consonants hard, vowels stretched long. The townsfolk listen without appearing to. Language is power. Not understanding it leaves one exposed. The boy glances toward them, curiosity pulling at him despite himself. His mother notices and shakes her head once, a small motion, easily missed. He looks away. The bell rings. Its sound spreads across the square, firm and undeniable. The market is open. Customers arrive in waves now. Coins clink. Baskets are opened. Prices are named and challenged. The rhythm of trade settles in, familiar as breath. The boy sells his first eggs quickly to a baker's wife who smiles at him and slips an extra copper into his palm. He flushes, unsure whether to protest. His mother nods from where she stands. He accepts it. As the morning wears on, more eyes drift toward the traveling merchants. They have laid out their goods carefully. Jewelry that catches the light too easily. Small carved figures made from bone and wood. Spices sealed in glass, their colors deep and rich. These are not necessities. They are temptations. A man steps forward. Then another. Fingers hover. Questions are asked cautiously. Prices are named and countered. The merchants smile politely, revealing little. The boy watches. He has never seen such things. He imagines what it would be like to own something made so far away, something that carries a story beyond fields and seasons. The thought feels dangerous. Around him, the market hums, but there is an undercurrent now, something tighter. The butcher sharpens his knife more often than necessary. The cloth seller rearranges his wares repeatedly, eyes flicking sideways. The priest who passes through pauses briefly, studying the merchants before moving on without blessing. By midday, the square is crowded. Heat rises from bodies pressed close. The scent of sweat joins the air. Flies gather where meat is cut. A child cries, then falls silent. Deals are struck, undone, reconsidered. The boy's basket grows lighter. His pockets heavier. He should feel proud. Instead, he feels watched. One of the traveling merchants looks at him directly. The man's eyes are dark, assessing. He nods once, a gesture that feels like acknowledgement or claim. The boy drops his gaze, heart racing, unsure why. His mother steps closer now, placing a hand briefly on his shoulder. Her touch grounds him. She says nothing, but her presence speaks clearly. This market belongs to us. Still unease spreads. Whispers move through the crowd. Quiet, incomplete. Questions about where these merchants come from, about what they carry beyond goods, about whether their arrival will bring trouble. Someone mentions theft in a neighboring town. Someone else speaks of sickness. No one knows the truth. Fear does not require certainty. As the sun begins its descent, shadows lengthen across the square. The boy sells his last eggs to a woman who counts each one carefully before nodding. He ties the empty basket shut, relief washing through him. The traveling merchants begin to pack. Their movements are efficient, practiced. They have learned when to leave. Some townsfolk watch with something like regret, others with relief. When their carts finally roll away, the square exhales. The bell rings again, signaling the end of the day. Stalls come down. Goods disappear. The market empties, leaving behind only scattered straw, crushed fruit, and a memory of tension that never quite resolved. The boy lifts his basket and walks home beside his mother. He does not speak of the merchants, though their faces linger in his mind. He does not yet understand why this day feels different from the others. He only knows that something shifted, that the market, which once felt unchanging, has revealed a crack. As they leave the square, the crow cries again from the church roof. The sound follows them into the narrowing streets, a reminder that watchfulness is never wasted. Tomorrow, the market will open once more, but the boy will walk differently now, and the market, ancient and patient, will remember him. Morning settles into the market not with sound, but with weight. His presence is not meant to intrude, only to observe. He pauses near the well, lifting the lantern to peer into its depths. The water below reflects the light faintly, then swallows it. He listens. Nothing stirs. Satisfied, he moves on. From an alleyway, a cat emerges, silent as breath. It pauses, ears twitching, then slips across the square toward a place where scraps are often forgotten. The market provides even in absence. At the edge of the square, a door creaks open. A woman steps out, wrapped in a heavy cloak. She is older now than she once was, her movements slower, careful. She carries a small bundle against her chest. Inside, wrapped in linen, are unsold goods, cheese, perhaps, or dried fruit. Things too precious to leave behind, too humble to mourn aloud. She crosses the square quietly, glancing around as if expecting the market to speak back to her. It does not, yet she feels it watching, the way one feels the presence of an old companion even in silence. This place has held her life. She remembers coming here as a child, fingers sticky with honey stolen from a stall, while her mother argued over price. She remembers standing here as a bride, veil thin against the sun, heart pounding louder than the bell. She remembers lost too, standing in the same square, clutching a basket she could barely afford to fill. The market has seen it all. It has never judged. She reaches the far side of the square and disappears into darkness, her footsteps swallowed by the night. The watchman continues his rounds. He passes the butcher's block, scrubbed clean but still marked by faint grooves where blades have fallen again and again. He pauses there, resting his hand briefly on the wood. It is scarred but solid, like the people who work it. Further on, he stops near a stall where cloth once lay folded in careful rows. A loose thread flutters in the night breeze, catching the moonlight. He tucks it back absent-mindedly, a small gesture of order in a world that rarely offers it. The bells are silent now, yet the rope inside the tower sways slightly, stirred by air currents, as if remembering the hands that pull it each day. Its bronze heart waits patiently. Time, here, is not hurried. Beyond the square, in a narrow room above a shuttered shop, a candle burns low. A young man sits at a table, counting coins by its light. He stacks them carefully, forming small towers that threaten to topple with each breath. His hands tremble, not from cold, but from exhaustion. He has worked since before dawn, hauling goods, haggling, watching for thieves. The market has taken its toll. Still, he counts again. He must be certain. Winter does not forgive mistakes. When he is done, he wraps the coins in cloth and ties them tightly, then presses a bundle into a hidden place beneath the floorboards. Only then does he allow himself to rest, lowering his head into his hands. Outside, the square lies quiet, indifferent yet protective. Somewhere else, a family sleeps above their stall. The scent of herbs clings to the walls, to their clothing, to their dreams. Boots press into gravel, leaving shallow impressions that will soon be erased by countless others. The ground still holds the cold of night, seeping upward through leather soles and into bone. Breath hangs briefly in the air before dissolving. The square does not rush to awaken. It allows itself to be entered. A cart creaks as it rolls forward, its axle complaining softly, as if remembering every mile it has carried. The driver guides it with gentle pressure, voice low, hand steady on the reins. The smell of hay clings to him, dry and sweet, woven with the musk of animals and old wood. Stalls take shape slowly. Wooden frames are lifted and slotted together, their joints worn smooth by years of repetition. Canvas is stretched, tied with rope darkened by weather and hands. Each knot is familiar, trusted. These structures have stood through rain and heat, through hunger and plenty. They will stand again. The baker arrives early. He always does. His apron is already dusted with flour, his sleeves rolled high. He moves with the confidence of habit, arranging his loaves in careful rows. Each one bears the marks of the oven. Cracked crust, blistered edges, the color of honest heat. He presses a thumb into a loaf, testing it, then nods faintly. Good enough. It must be. Nearby, the butcher sharpens his cleaver. The sound is steady, rhythmic, almost soothing. Metal against stone. Back and forth. Back and forth. He does not look up as others pass. His focus is absolute. There is no room for distraction in his work. Meat spoils quickly. Mistakes linger. The market fills with scent. Bread and iron. Leather and damp wool. Smoke drifting from hearths where morning fires still burn. The air grows thick with it, wrapping itself around everyone who enters. This smell will follow them home, clinging to hair and clothing. Proof of where they have been. At the edge of the square, a young woman stands quietly. Her cloak is pulled close, not out of fear, but out of habit. The morning chill presses in, though the promise of warmth already stirs. She waits until the space before her feels right, then steps forward, setting down a small table and a bundle wrapped in linen. She is a seamstress. Her hands are fine-boned but strong, her fingers marked by tiny scars where needles have slipped. She works with thread and patience, with light that fades too quickly and eyes that ache by candle glow. The things she makes are small, easily overlooked, yet they hold the world together. Seams, hems, mended places where cloth is torn but life must continue. She unwraps her goods carefully. Scarves first. Woven wool, dyed with plants gathered along the riverbank. Soft greens, muted reds, colors that do not shout. She arranges them with care, smoothing each fold, aligning the edges. There is comfort in order. As she works, she feels the market gather around her. Voices rise. Coins clink. A child laughs, then cries. A dog weaves through legs, tail wagging, searching for scraps. The square pulses with life, steady and familiar. She looks up and meets the gaze of a passing merchant. It is brief, unremarkable to anyone else. Yet in that moment, something passes between them. Not desire, not fear, but recognition. They have seen each other here many times. They know one another by presence alone. No words are needed. This is how the market speaks. As the morning deepens, customers arrive. A woman buys a scarf, fingers lingering on the weave as if committing it to memory. A man asks about repairs, his voice low, hopeful. The seamstress listens, nods, names a price that is fair. She never hurries. Her calm draws trust. Time moves differently here. The sun climbs, warming stone and skin. Shadows shorten, then begin their slow stretch again. The market reaches its fullest point, bodies press close, air heavy with breath and sound. Then the change arrives. It is not announced. It never is. A hush moves through the square like a held breath. Conversations falter, then fall silent. The seamstress feels it before she sees it. A tightening, a shift in posture, eyes turning in the same direction. The local lord enters a market. He does not walk alone. Guards flank him, their mail glinting faintly, their hands resting easily near sword hilts. His boots are polished, his cloak heavy, lined with fur. He moves with the assurance of someone who has never needed to ask permission. The square bends around him. People step aside instinctively, creating a path through the crowd. The noise does not stop entirely, but it softens, edges dulled by caution. Laughter fades. Bargaining becomes polite, restrained. The seamstress lowers her gaze. She does not bow deeply. That would draw attention. Instead, she stills her hands, becoming part of the background. Invisibility is a skill learned early. The Lord pauses near the center of the square. His eyes move slowly, taking in the stalls, the goods, the people. He does not need to speak. His presence is message enough. This place, like everything else, belongs to him. A clerk follows close behind, carrying a ledger bound in worn leather. He murmurs quietly, pointing now and then. Names are noted, numbers recorded. The market is being measured, weighed not by scales but by authority. The butcher stiffens. The baker's jaw tightens. The cloth merchant adjusts his wares unnecessarily. The seamstress feels her heartbeat in her throat. She has little to hide, yet the feeling remains. Power does not require guilt to intimidate. The Lord stops near her stall. She senses him before she sees his boots at the edge of her vision. Her fingers still. Her breath slows. She waits. He studies her work. One gloved hand reaches out, lifting the edge of a scarf. The fabric slips through his fingers. He says nothing. His expression reveals nothing. Then he sets it down and moves on. Only after he has passed does she allow herself to breathe fully. The market does not resume as it was. Attention lingers, threading itself through every interaction. People speak more carefully. Coins are counted twice. Eyes follow the Lord until he exits the square, his guards parting the crowd once more. When he is gone, sound rushes back in. Voices rise too quickly, laughter forced. Relief mixes with resentment. The market steadies itself, though the rhythm feels altered. As the afternoon wanes, the seamstress continues her work. She repairs a tear in a farmer's cloak, stitches neat and small. She sells another scarf. She listens more than she speaks. The market tells her its stories whether she asks or not. When the bell rings at last, signaling the end of the day, the sound feels earned. Stalls come down. Goods are wrapped and tied. The square empties slowly, reluctantly, as if reluctant to release what it has held. The seamstress packs her remaining scarves, folding them carefully. Her fingers ache. Her back is stiff. Yet there is satisfaction in the weight of her bundle. As she leaves the square, she glances once more at the place where the Lord stood. The stones there look no different, yet she knows they remember. The market does not forget power. It learns to live beside it. Tomorrow, the stalls will rise again. Bread will bake. Needles will pierce cloth. Coins will pass from hand to hand. And beneath it all, the quiet endurance of ordinary lives will continue, stitched together, day by day, in places where no one thinks to look. The bells begin before dawn. Their sound moves slowly through the mist, thick and resonant, as though the air itself resists being disturbed. Each toll presses outward from the tower, sinking into rooftops, into timber walls, into the uneven stones of the market square below. The fog hangs low, clinging to ground like breath held too long, softening every edge it touches. The market reveals itself gradually. Shadows first, vague shapes where stalls will stand, where carts will arrive. Then movement, a flicker of lantern light, the scrape of wood against stone, the quiet murmur of voices kept low out of habit rather than necessity. As the mist thins, color emerges. The muted browns of canvas, the dull gray of iron, the deep green of cabbages piled high in wicker baskets, their outer leaves curled and scarred by weather. Apples gleam faintly with moisture. Pottery catches a first pale light, its glazed surfaces reflecting a sky not yet fully awake. Sound follows. The lowing of cattle penned near the edge of the square, the rustle of straw underfoot, the distant rhythm of a hammer striking iron, each blow measured and patient. Somewhere nearby, a dog barks once, then falls silent. The market breathes in. People arrive from every direction, drawn by need as much as by habit. Farmers with earth, still clinging to their boots. Townswomen carrying baskets lined with cloth. Travelers whose faces betray long roads and little rest. Each carries something to sell, something to trade, something to ask. Near the forge, a young man stands watching. His shoulders are broad for his age, his hands already marked by work. Calluses trace his palms like a second set of lines, hardened by heat and weight. He is the blacksmith's apprentice. Though the title matters less than the proof, his aching arms, his soot-streaked face, the quiet pride he carries like a shield. His master works beside him. The older man's movements are economical, unhurried. He lifts a length of iron from the coals, its surface glowing dull orange, and places on the anvil. The hammer rises and falls, each strike ringing out, sharp and clear. Sparks scatter, brief stars against the morning gloom. The apprentice watches closely. He knows when to turn the piece, when to quench it, when to step back. Every motion is learned through repetition, through correction, through silence. Words are few here. Iron listens better than people. With each strike, the shape changes. What was once formless begins to take purpose. A hinge, perhaps, or a nail meant to hold a door against wind and fear. The apprentice feels the weight of tradition in every blow. This work was done before him, will be done after him. His hands are merely the latest to carry it forward. A short distance away, a woman arranges her stall of dried herbs. She moves with precision, her fingers nimble despite their age. Bundles are tied with twine, labeled not with ink but with memory. Yarrow for wounds, feverfew for heat in the blood, lavender for restless minds. She places each carefully, aligning them as though order itself might ward off chaos. Her eyes miss little. She watches the crowd even as she works, noting who approaches eagerly, who hesitates. She has learned to read faces, the tightness around the eyes, the way a hand trembles when reaching for a remedy. Her knowledge is not written in books. It lives in observation, in stories passed quietly from one woman to another. As the sun climbs, the market fills. Voices overlap. Bargains are struck. Laughter breaks out briefly, then fades. The smell of iron mingles with that of crushed herbs, of animals and people pressed close. The square hums with life, vibrant and fragile. Then a whisper begins. It is not loud. It does not announce itself. It moves like breath between words, like a shadow passing unnoticed. Sickness. Someone speaks of a village upriver, where fever has taken hold, where throats swell and breathing becomes a struggle, where the old and the young fall first. No one knows how it began. Water, perhaps, or the road, or something carried unknowingly from one place to another. The market reacts subtly. A man coughs, and those nearby step back just slightly. A mother draws her child closer. The herb woman feels a shift in the air, a tightening she recognizes too well. Fear has arrived. The apprentice hears it too. He pauses mid-motion, hammer raised, as his master finishes a piece and plunges it into water. Steam rises with a hiss. The older man glances toward the crowd, his eyes narrowing. He says nothing, but his jaw tightens. Work continues. It must. The market cannot afford to stop. Bread must be bought. Tools must be mended. Remedies must be found. Yet beneath every exchange, the question lingers. Who will be next? The herb woman finds herself busier now. People approach with urgency, voices lowered, eyes darting. They ask for anything that might protect them, anything that might cure what has not yet arrived. She listens carefully, offer what she can, cautioning where she must. Some leave reassured. Others leave disappointed, fear clinging to them like smoke. The apprentice carries a bucket of water, his arms straining. He feels the weight of the day settling into him. Not just a physical labor, but the awareness that something unseen has entered the square. He watches faces more closely now. He notices how people avoid touching, how coins are dropped rather than placed in open palms. The bells toll again, marking the hour. Their sound feels heavier now, as if burdened by knowledge. By midday, the sun burns through the last of the mist. Heat settles over the market, drawing sweat from skin, thickening the air. Flies gather where food is prepared. The noise grows louder, perhaps in defiance, perhaps from nerves. The rumor spreads further. Someone claims a sickness follows trade routes. Someone else insists it comes from bad air. A traveler is eyed suspiciously. A stranger is avoided. Blame circles, searching for a place to land. The apprentice feels a flicker of unease. He thinks of his home, of his mother's small kitchen, of the shared cup passed between them at supper. He wonders whether he should bring food back tonight, whether he should stay away. The thought lodges in his chest. The herb woman pauses to rub her wrists. Her supplies are thinning faster than expected. She considers how much to hold back, how much to give. There will be need tomorrow, and the next day, and perhaps many days after. As the afternoon wanes, the market's energy falters. People leave earlier than usual. Stalls begin to pack away. Conversations are shorter, clipped. The fear has not exploded into panic, but it has settled deep, coiled and waiting. When the closing bell rings, its sound carries farther than before. The square empties with unusual speed. Carts roll away. Footsteps fade. The forge fire is banked low, embers glowing faintly. The herb woman ties her bundles carefully, her movements deliberate, almost ritualistic. The apprentice wipes his hands on a cloth, streaking it black. He looks once more across the square, now nearly empty. The stones gleam in the late light, innocent and unchanging. Yet he knows what has passed through here today: goods, people, rumors, fear. He lifts his tools, feeling their familiar weight, and follows his master home. The market will open again tomorrow. The bells will ring. The hammer will fall. The herbs will be laid out once more. But something has been set in motion, and like iron in the fire, the shape of days to come will be changed by forces unseen, pressed into being one careful strike at a time. The market does not truly sleep. Even after the bell has rung its final note, and the square is emptied of voices, something remains behind. The stones still hold warmth from the day. The air still carries the faint memory of bread and smoke, iron and sweat. Night settles gently, as if careful not to disturb what lingers unseen. The moon rises slowly, pale and deliberate, lifting itself above the rooftops like a watchful eye. Its light spills into the square, softening the edges of stalls now stripped bare. Wooden frames stand like ribs against the dark, ropes hanging loose, canvas folded and tied away. What was once crowded now feels exposed. Footsteps echo. They belong to a single figure crossing the square with measured pace. A watchman, cloaked in dark wool, carrying a lantern that sways slightly with each step. The flame flickers behind horn panes, casting restless shadows that stretch and shrink across the stones. He has walked this path many times. He knows where the ground dips, where water pools after rain, where the stones loosen beneath careless feet. His presence is not meant to intrude, only to observe. He pauses near the well, lifting the lantern to peer into its depths. The water below reflects the light faintly, then swallows it. He listens. Nothing stirs. Satisfied, he moves on. From an alleyway, a cat emerges, silent as breath. It pauses, ears twitching, then slips across the square toward a place where scraps are often forgotten. The market provides even in absence. At the edge of the square, a door creaks open. A woman steps out, wrapped in a heavy cloak. She is older now than she once was, her movements slower, careful. She carries a small bundle against her chest. Inside, wrapped in linen, are unsold goods, cheese, perhaps, or dried fruit. Things too precious to leave behind, too humble to mourn aloud. She crosses the square quietly, glancing around as if expecting the market to speak back to her. It does not, yet she feels it watching, the way one feels the presence of an old companion even in silence. This place has held her life. She remembers coming here as a child, fingers sticky with honey stolen from a stall, while her mother argued over price. She remembers standing here as a bride, veil thin against the sun, heart pounding louder than the bell. She remembers lost too, standing in the same square, clutching a basket she could barely afford to fill. The market has seen it all. It has never judged. She reaches the far side of the square and disappears into the darkness, her footsteps swallowed by the night. The watchman continues his rounds. He passes the butcher's block, scrubbed clean but still marked by faint grooves where blades have fallen again and again. He pauses there, resting his hand briefly on the wood. It is scarred but solid, like the people who work it. Further on, he stops near a stall where cloth once lay folded in careful rows. A loose thread flutters in the night breeze, catching the moonlight. He tucks it back absent-mindedly, a small gesture of order in a world that rarely offers it. The bells are silent now, yet the rope inside the tower sways slightly, stirred by air currents, as if remembering the hands that pull it each day. Its bronze heart waits patiently. Time here is not hurried. Beyond the square, in a narrow room above a shuttered shop, a candle burns low. A young man sits at a table, counting coins by its light. He stacks them carefully, forming small towers that threaten to topple with each breath. His hands tremble, not from cold, but from exhaustion. He has worked since before dawn, hauling goods, haggling, watching for thieves. The market has taken its toll. Still, he counts again. He must be certain. Winter does not forgive mistakes. When he is done, he wraps the coins in cloth and ties them tightly, then presses a bundle into a hidden place beneath the floorboards. Only then does he allow himself to rest, lowering his head into his hands. Outside, the square lies quiet, indifferent yet protective. Somewhere else, a family sleeps above their stall. The scent of herbs clings to the walls, to their clothing, to their dreams. The mother stirs, coughing lightly, and the father shifts beside her. They do not wake fully. The market has taught them to conserve strength. In the darkness, memories drift, the laughter of children chasing one another between stalls, the sharp cry of a vendor hawking wares, the low murmur of deals struck and broken, the bell, always the bell, marking beginnings and endings without favor. These sounds linger like echoes trapped in stone. The watchman completes his circuit and returns to the center of the square. He lifts his lantern once more, scanning the empty space. Satisfied, he turns toward the tower, where he will sit until dawn, listening. The night deepens. Clouds pass over the moon, briefly dimming the light. The square grows darker, then bright again as the clouds move on. Time passes, slow and deliberate. In this quiet, the market feels vast, not because of its size, but because of what it contains. Countless lives intersecting, brushing past one another, leaving marks both visible and unseen. The market is not just a place of trade. It is a witness. It has seen joy carried away in baskets. It has seen grief laid down in silence. It has seen power walk openly and fear creep softly. And it will see more. As the night wears on, the first hint of dawn begins to form at the horizon. The darkness thins, reluctantly giving way. Somewhere a rooster crows, its voice thin but determined. The watchman straightens. Soon, others will come. Vendors will arrive, yawning, stretching stiff limbs. Stalls will rise again. Bread will bake. Iron will sing beneath the hammer. The market will resume its ancient rhythm, as if it never paused. But for now, there is this moment, this breath between days. The square holds it gently, knowing it will not last. When the bell rings again, the night will retreat fully. The market will awaken, ready once more to hold the lives of those who depend upon it. Until then, it waits, silent, enduring, remembering. Sparks scatter, brief stars against the morning gloom. The apprentice watches closely. He knows when to turn the piece, when to quench it, when to step back. Every motion is learned through repetition, through correction, through silence. Words are few here. Iron listens better than people. With each strike, the shape changes. What was once formless begins to take purpose. A hinge, perhaps, or a nail meant to hold a door against wind and fear. The apprentice feels the weight of tradition in every blow. This work was done before him, will be done after him. His hands are merely the latest to carry it forward. A short distance away, a woman arranges her stall of dried herbs. She moves with precision, her fingers nimble despite their age. Bundles are tied with twine, labeled not with ink, but with memory. Yarrow for wounds, feverfew for heat in the blood, lavender for restless minds. She places each carefully, aligning them as though order itself might ward off chaos. Her eyes miss little. She watches the crowd even as she works, noting who approaches eagerly, who hesitates. She has learned to read faces, the tightness around the eyes, the way a hand trembles when reaching for a remedy. Her knowledge is not written in books. It lives in observation, in stories passed quietly from one woman to another. As the sun climbs, the market fills. Voices overlap. Bargains are struck. Laughter breaks out briefly, then fades. The smell of iron mingles with that of crushed herbs, of animals and people pressed close. The square hums with life, vibrant and fragile. Then a whisper begins. It is not loud. It does not announce itself. It moves like breath between words, like a shadow passing unnoticed. Sickness. Someone speaks of a village upriver where fever has taken hold, where throats swell and breathing becomes a struggle, where the old and the young fall first. No one knows how it began. Water, perhaps, or the road, or something carried unknowingly from one place to another. The market reacts subtly. A man coughs, and those nearby step back just slightly. A mother draws her child closer. The herb woman feels a shift in the air, a tightening she recognizes too well. Fear has arrived. The apprentice hears it too. He pauses mid-motion, hammer raised, as his master finishes a piece and plunges into water. Steam rises with a hiss. The older man glances toward the crowd, his eyes narrowing. He says nothing, but his jaw tightens. Work continues. It must. The market cannot afford to stop. Bread must be bought. Tools must be mended. Remedies must be found. Yet beneath every exchange, the question lingers. Who will be next? The herb woman finds herself busier now. People approach with urgency, voices lowered, eyes darting. They ask for anything that might protect them, anything that might cure what has not yet arrived. She listens carefully, offering what she can, cautioning where she must. Some leave reassured. Others leave disappointed, fear clinging to them like smoke. The apprentice carries a bucket of water, his arm straining. He feels the weight of the day settling into him. Not just a physical labor, but the awareness that something unseen has entered the square. He watches faces more closely now. He notices how people avoid touching, how coins are dropped rather than placed in open palms. The bells toll again, marking the hour. Their sound feels heavier now, as if burdened by knowledge. By midday, the sun burns through the last of the mist. Heat settles over the market, drawing sweat from skin, thickening the air. Flies gather where food is prepared. The noise grows louder, perhaps in defiance, perhaps from nerves. The rumor spreads further. Someone claims a sickness follows trade routes. Someone else insists it comes from bad air. A traveler is eyed suspiciously. A stranger is avoided. Blame circles, searching for a place to land. The apprentice feels a flicker of unease. He thinks of his home, of his mother's small kitchen, of the shared cup passed between them at supper. He wonders whether he should bring food back tonight, whether he should stay away.